Welcome. It is Mitch. I am on YouTube. As always, please subscribe, leave a comment, like the videos, interact in some way, trying to build this channel from the ground up. A lot of Packers talk, a lot of Knicks talk, NFL, NBA, things of that nature. Diving right back into Packers stuff today after they start 0-1. Had the recap posted just a couple of hours after the game went final in Brazil on Friday night against Philadelphia. Of course, Jordan Love goes down with an injury on the second to last play of the game. We have now found out, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, along with others, reporting it's an MCL sprain. Rappaport said his sources telling him it's between a grade 1 and a grade 2 MCL sprain for Jordan Love. Honestly, probably best case scenario. We were thinking, potentially something bad with the ankle. Torn ACL was floated out there. There were a lot of different theories being thrown out there by Twitter doctors before we settled on MCL sprain. And the fact that it's, as Rappaport is reporting, somewhere between grade 1 and grade 2, Green Bay, Jordan Love really dodged a bullet on the injury front here. Now he's going to miss some time. If you define a couple as 2 to 3, he's probably going to miss a couple games. If you describe a few as 3+, I don't know if we get to that territory. We'll have to wait and see. We know the Packers are really conservative with injuries historically and bringing guys back, and you just paid Jordan Love all this money to make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history before Dak Prescott changed that on Sunday with his new extension with the Cowboys. I know it seems like time is of the essence, and Green Bay has to attack now, and there's a window to compete and win now, but you don't want to rush your quarterback, your superstar quarterback that you paid all this money to just this offseason back to risk a worse injury that could pop up. So we'll see how much time Jordan Love misses. The point of this video is to kind of decipher what Green Bay does from here, where they go from here at the quarterback position. To me, there's really 4 options, and I'll list those options, and then we'll dive into what I think Green Bay will do. Would love to hear your thoughts as well in the comment section. All right, Malik Willis is an option. They traded a pick for him. Acquired him from Tennessee after training camp, after preseason. Former, a third-round pick out of Liberty. Never really got a fair shot. I don't know if I should say fair. He never really got a shot in Tennessee to be the guy. Titans move on from him. Malik Willis was the backup Friday night. In Brazil, came in for those final 2 snaps. He's an option. Sean Clifford's an option. Second-year player, drafted him out of Penn State. On the practice squad, you'd have to elevate him to the active roster, and he's probably going to be on the active roster anyways if Jordan Love's inactive for these next few games. You would think, be Willis and Sean Clifford. Another potential option out there, outside hire, bring in a free agent. For this, I really only see one name that would be realistic or that could pique the interest for Green Bay, and it'd be Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis's former teammate, coincidentally enough, with Tennessee. And then the last option's kind of way out there, Michael Pratt. He's on Tampa Bay's practice squad, was a 7th-round pick by the Packers, but they cut him, released him just a few weeks ago, and he's now on the practice squad for Tampa Bay. Those are the options. Those are the options for Green Bay to try to figure out what they're going to do life without Jordan Love for the next couple or few games. All right, let's start with, I think, the most unrealistic of the bunch, and it's Michael Pratt. Now, I listed it as an option because I don't think you can completely rule it out, although if they plucked Pratt from Tampa Bay's practice squad, I would be utterly shocked if that's the option they went with, and there's a couple reasons why. They literally got rid of him and kept Sean Clifford on the practice squad. So when it came down to, hey, we're going to keep either Clifford or Pratt, not even on the active roster, just on the practice squad, they went with Sean Clifford over Pratt. So it wouldn't be logical. It wouldn't make any sense really for Green Bay to then turn back and say, wait, let's now bring Pratt back in to the fold here. Now they can pluck him, as I said, from Tampa Bay's practice squad, but you have to remember, if you add a player from another team's practice squad, they have to be on your 53-man roster for 3 weeks. You can't just pick Pratt and then put him on your practice squad. He would have to be on the 53-man roster. It really doesn't make any sort of sense. There's some familiarity with the system. He's a rookie 7th-round pick. He went through training camp, went through the preseason with Green Bay. He's got a rocket arm. I see this as a 0% chance this happens, but because there were ties to Green Bay, because it's an option that you wouldn't have to give anything up in like a trade with Tampa Bay, he's on their practice squad, so you could just take him back and put him on your active roster. I had to list it, but again, they didn't like him enough to keep him over Sean Clifford, and they didn't like Clifford or Pratt enough to keep them as the backup, which is why they brought in Malik Willis. So Michael Pratt's an option. I don't see it happening. Sean Clifford, the aforementioned second-year quarterback out of Penn State. He's in the building. He's on the practice squad. So he checks a couple of those boxes. I still don't see it at all. The case that you would make for Sean Clifford is that, hey, he knows the offense. He knows LaFleur's system better than Malik Willis does right now. I just don't care. That doesn't outweigh, if we're doing a pros and cons for Clifford comparing him to Willis, the pros for Clifford don't really match up to a point where I'm like, yes, I want to see Sean Clifford be QB1 in Jordan Love's absence. They traded for Malik Willis. You can't forget this. They didn't just look at the Titans situation. The Titans just said, hey, we're going to cut ties with Malik Willis. And the Packers were like, hey, free agent, let's pick him up and bring him in. No, the Packers traded a pick, not a very valuable one, but we know how much Green Bay values all their draft picks, right? They like to build up that compensation typically, not give it out, right? That's typically what they do. They don't really trade for players and give up picks typically, but they gave up a late round pick next year's draft for Malik Willis because they looked at their situation after training camp and after preseason and said, I don't think Sean Clifford's ready to be the backup. I don't think Michael Pratt's ready to be the backup. We need to go somewhere else. And so they traded for Malik Willis. So to now spin back on that and say, well, now that we're kind of in hot water and Love's out for a few games, let's panic and go with Clifford instead of Willis just because Clifford might have a better grasp on things. I don't think that would make much sense either. They quite literally, indirectly told Clifford and Pratt, like, hey, you didn't cut it, you didn't get the job done, we're bringing in someone else, but kept Clifford on the practice squad as sort of a, hey, just in case something like this pops up where Jordan Love goes down in week 1 and is going to miss at least a little bit of time. So I don't think it makes any sense. And if you view Malik Willis as this guy who could be your backup quarterback for the foreseeable future, his first opportunity comes about to start, it would be a ding to his confidence to look around and be like, yeah, this should be your opportunity, but we're going to go with Sean Clifford. We're going to go with the guy that you replaced, the guy that's on the practice squad while you're on the active roster in week 1. And so I think it would be a ding to Malik Willis's confidence for Green Bay to go that route. It is an option, though, and certainly Clifford a more realistic option than Michael Pratt would be at this point. Mitch, I am on YouTube. Please subscribe, leave a comment. Like the video, you can dislike it, just interact in any way. Appreciate it, trying to build this up. Would love to get to 100 subscribers, I don't know, in the next couple of months. I don't know how realistic, unrealistic that might be, but that's kind of the goal, get to 100 subscribers in the next couple of months. Third option for Green Bay, free agent signing, mentioned Ryan Tannehill. Reason I mentioned him, probably the best name that's on the market, someone who you would think plug and play and just give him some real basic simple concepts within the playbook to try to ease him in if you wanted to go that route. Now on Sunday, Diana Rossini, formerly of ESPN, reported that there had been contact between Tannehill and the Green Bay Packers, and then Tom Pelissero of NFL Network quickly after that tweeted, no, there's been no contact between Green Bay and Tannehill. So it kind of made me think, is Tannehill's side the one reaching out to Diana Rossini trying to jar something up and be like, yeah, hey, Tannehill, there's been conversation, blah, 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 things of that nature. And then was it Pelissero who reached out to his sources in Green Bay and they're like, no, that's just blatantly false. That's kind of the read I got on it. But Tannehill or a free agent would be an option. The reason it doesn't make sense for me is this. If this were an injury where Jordan Love was assumed to be out for 7 to 10 weeks, you then go down the rabbit hole of, hey, do you just pack up shop, play Willis, and see how things go with no real expectations to compete this year, even though they have a roster that's ready to compete, but Jordan Love's going to be out for so long that it just doesn't make sense, right? Like if this were a 7 to 10 week injury, then I think going with a veteran like Ryan Tannehill would make more sense because you bring him in for that stretch of a couple of months, knowing that, hey, Love's probably going to be back for the last few games. But we see if Tannehill, a guy like that, who's been an established starter in the league with the Dolphins, with the Titans, can get us through a couple of months and maybe keep things afloat, and then Love can come in for those last few games when he's healthy, ready to go and attack, and at that point you're thinking hopefully a wild card spot, but that's not what this is. This isn't, at least we don't think, this is a 7 to 10 week thing for Jordan Love. It sounds like a 2 to 3 week thing potentially for QB1. So that if this were a longer injury, I would see it making more sense than to bring in a veteran like Ryan Tannehill. But because it's just a couple of weeks, I think you try to tread that water elsewhere, and elsewhere being Malik Willis. But the Ryan Tannehill name was floated about on Sunday on Twitter. for me, just using the resources to sign someone like Tannehill as a placeholder for a short-term filler just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't. Is it realistic? It's more realistic, I think, than them bringing in Michael Pratt or elevating Sean Clifford, perhaps, to starter status. But I still don't think Green Bay goes that route. By the time he gets up to date on the scheme and the system, Love's going to be returning if he's just missing 2 or 3 weeks. And you have to ask yourself the question, does Ryan Tannehill right now give you a better chance to win compared to Malik Willis? Maybe. And he's certainly a more proven quarterback at this stage of his career compared to where Willis is at in his career. But this is Green Bay, and they believe in development, and this is exactly why they brought in Malik Willis. Didn't expect him to get thrown into the fire. You always hope your backup quarterback never has to get starting time because that means the starter's hurt, right? Or they're playing so bad that they get benched. And you certainly didn't expect this after week 1. You wanted Willis to have more time to get comfortable with the system and with things in Green Bay and his surroundings. But this is the hand Green Bay has been dealt. And then that final option is Malik Willis. And this is the option I believe Green Bay will go with. A couple extra days to prepare after the Friday night game. There's a good supporting cast around Willis. He doesn't have to be Jordan Love. No one thinks he's going to be Jordan Love. He doesn't have to be a hero. But you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, even if it's just for a couple games, you're going to have to make plays, whether that's with your legs, whether that's with your arm. Malik Willis is going to have to make plays. Can't sugarcoat it. You can't skate by in the NFL on an incredible defense and an incredible supporting cast on offense with the quarterback doing nothing. It's unrealistic. And if this is let's say it's a 3 to 4 game scenario for Willis, you can't get by 3 or 4 games with him doing absolutely nothing. So Malik Willis is going to have to make plays. He's going to have to, point blank, end of discussion. Does he have that in him? That's kind of the question that you have to ask. But no one's expecting him to put that helmet on Sunday if he is the starter week 2 against Indianapolis and be Jordan Love or try to fill those shoes completely. It's far-fetched. It's just not going to happen. You look at a guy like Josh Jacobs in the backfield, and I used the term bell cow with him before week 1 against Philadelphia because A.J. Dillon's out for the year. Marshawn Lloyd missed week 1. You're talking about a real bell cow scenario now for Josh Jacobs because Green Bay's more than likely going to even lean on the run more heavily in the absence of Jordan Love. You got to trust the ground game. Use the motion. We saw the Jets sweep, go for a touchdown to Jaden Reed. Use that speed you have with Watson and Reed on the perimeter to your advantage. But yeah, like Malik Willis, he's going to have to make plays. The one thing he has going for him, and there's more than one, but one big thing is I truly believe Willis having Matt LaFleur as his head coach. LaFleur's smart enough to he's not going to overcook this situation for Malik Willis. He'll do everything possible to make things as easy as can be for the quarterback in Love's absence, if that is Malik Willis or whoever it ends up being. Now, I think you run a fine line of not wanting to dumb things down too much because I think a quarterback's smart enough to know, wow, they really don't trust me. This scheme is really vanilla. Not really a big chance to succeed here, so I think you have to kind of walk the tightrope if you're Matt LaFleur and if it is Malik Willis or Sean Clifford, and try to put the install in and make sure you're painting a picture where you have a belief in them and a confidence in them, but also kind of putting in things where it's not too complex, perhaps, for someone who essentially is getting thrown in to the fire here in week 2 of the NFL season. But Malik Willis, if it's him, he's going to have to make throws. He's going to have to make plays with his legs, he especially his legs. Trust him, use him. Maybe Green Bay has some read option, some speed option. I don't know. But you're not going to be able to skate by with the quarterback just being completely underwhelming. It's not going to get the job done. You look at the next 2 weeks and you have the Colts at home and then you're at the Titans. And with respect to those teams, these aren't games you don't like to think, you get 17 cracks in the NFL, you're not punting away any games. But against the Colts and the Titans the next 2 weeks, you're definitely not punting things away or even have anything close to that mindset if you're Green Bay, and that's with all respect to those two teams, but it's not exactly like you're facing the 49ers in San Francisco or you're going to Kansas City to face Patrick Mahomes with a backup quarterback. We saw Jordan Love do that a few years ago back in the COVID season. You figure out a way to go 1-1 in these next 2 games, and you kind of just see where Jordan Love is at that point when Minnesota comes to town 3 weeks from now. You hopefully beat the hell out of the Vikings no matter who's under center. But right now the focus is the home opener with Indianapolis. Good thing for Green Bay. Zoom out the microscope. I like to use that phrase. The season's not lost. Jordan Love's not gone for the season. It sounds like a short-term thing. They really dodged disaster, as did Jordan Love in this 2024 season. It's still right there, but you have to find a way to scratch out at least one win in these next 2 weeks. You got to at least go 1-1. You start 0-3, and then you're welcoming in a division opponent in Minnesota, and Love still might not be back. That'd be tough sledding for Green Bay at that point. So you have to try to stay afloat with Jordan Love out. And yes, that means relying on the defense too. But those are the options. I think it's going to be Malik Willis. We'll see what Green Bay ends up doing. Please make sure to subscribe. Mitch Ram on YouTube. We'll see you next time.